I want to talk to you about something that has radically changed my life in ways I never expected. It's something I wish I could have figured out much earlier, but you know what? Life doesn't always give you those realizations until the right time comes. And for me, that time came when I turned 60. You see, after all these years of trying to meet everyone else's expectations, I finally learned the hardest lesson of all. I stopped trying to please everyone, and it was the most freeing thing I've ever done. And I want to share why this was such a breakthrough, and why you should seriously consider doing the same, no matter what age you are. I know it's not easy to stop caring about what other people think. In fact, it's one of the most challenging things anyone can do. We've all been there, feeling the pressure to be everything to everyone, to be the perfect parent, the perfect friend, the perfect colleague, the perfect partner. The weight of those expectations can feel crushing. The need for approval, for validation, for someone to say, "Hey, you're doing great," can be so overwhelming that we forget to ask ourselves if we're doing great. But here's the brutal truth. You will never be able to please everyone, and trying to do so will only burn you out. No matter how hard you try, there will always be someone who isn't happy with what you're doing. The problem isn't them, it's you. It's you putting your worth and happiness in the hands of others. And let me tell you, that is a dangerous game to play. I spent decades playing that game. I said yes when I wanted to say no. I kept quiet when I wanted to speak up. I sacrificed my own happiness to keep the peace. And for what? A momentary sense of approval? A fleeting, false idea of being liked or appreciated. The problem with this is that it doesn't last. The approval is temporary, and soon enough, you're back to square one, trying to please the next person, the next group, the next boss, the next friend. And before you know it, you've completely lost touch with who you really are. You've built a life based on other people's dreams, other people's expectations. You've created a version of yourself that doesn't even belong to you anymore. But it doesn't have to be that way. I want to tell you why it's okay to stop trying to please everyone. Why it's not just okay, but essential for your happiness, peace of mind, and overall well-being. This isn't some selfish advice about doing whatever you want without considering others. It's about getting clear on who you are and what you need, and having the courage to live that truth. I know it can feel impossible to start setting boundaries, especially when you're used to giving, saying yes, and doing everything for others. But here's what I've learned after 60 years. Saying no doesn't make you a bad person. In fact, it makes you a stronger person, a more authentic person, someone who knows their own value and isn't willing to compromise it for the sake of others. So, here's the first piece of advice I want to give you. Stop being afraid of disappointing people. I know, it sounds scary, but let me explain. The fear of disappointing others keeps us trapped in a cycle of pleasing, constantly bending ourselves out of shape to fit someone else's idea of who we should be. But when you stop fearing that disappointment, you begin to live for yourself. You begin to take control of your own life, your own choices, your own happiness. And let me tell you, the relief that comes with that is something you can't even imagine until you experience it yourself. When I turned 60, I started to understand the importance of saying no. At first, it was uncomfortable, awkward, and even guilt-inducing. I'd say no to requests. I'd cancel plans I wasn't interested in. I'd stop agreeing to things I had no passion for. But every time I did, I felt a little lighter. I started to reclaim my time, my energy, my peace. But here's the big secret. Saying no is not a rejection of others. It's an affirmation of yourself. It's you saying, "I know what I need. I know what I want. I'm going to respect myself enough to prioritize my well-being over the constant need to be liked by everyone around me." And let me be clear, you don't owe anyone an explanation for why you're setting boundaries. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you're choosing to live life on your own terms. Your life is yours to live, and no one has the right to make you feel guilty for taking care of yourself first. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but I don't want to lose my friends. I don't want to disappoint my family. I don't want people to think I'm selfish. And I get it. I've been there too. But here's the reality. The people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries. They'll understand that you're not abandoning them or rejecting them. You're simply choosing to live more authentically. And the people who don't respect your boundaries, well, maybe it's time to ask if they truly belong in your life. This was the hardest part of my journey, realizing that the people who couldn't accept my boundaries weren't really the friends or family I thought they were. And as hard as it was to face that truth, it was necessary. Because when you stop living for others, when you stop pleasing everyone around you, you start to make space for the people who really get you. The people who see you for who you truly are, who love and respect you unconditionally, and who will never demand that you compromise your happiness for theirs. So, now that you know why it's so important to stop trying to please everyone, let's talk about how to actually make this shift. Because as with any big change in life, it's not enough to just know something. You've got to put it into action. You have to commit to making yourself a priority, to choosing yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable. And trust me, it will feel uncomfortable at first, but that's okay. Growth never happens in your comfort zone. When I first started setting boundaries, I thought I was being rude. I felt like I was being selfish, even though deep down, I knew I wasn't. But that voice in my head, that voice we all have, kept telling me that people would think I was selfish, or worse, that I'd lose people who meant a lot to me. But you know what? Over time, I realized that setting boundaries isn't about pushing people away. It's about pulling yourself closer to the life you deserve. And here's the hard truth. The people who are truly meant to be in your life will respect your boundaries. They'll understand that by prioritizing your own needs, you're not rejecting them. You're simply living with more intention and self-respect. The people who can't accept that, maybe it's time to ask if they're really serving your highest good. So, how do you actually start saying no, and why is it so important? Let me be honest with you. Saying no is an act of courage. It's an act of self-love. It's a clear statement that you are worthy of your own time, energy, and attention. It may seem small at first, but the more you say no, the more you're saying yes to yourself. You're creating space for the things that really matter to you, for the relationships and experiences that truly nourish your soul. And let me tell you, that is a powerful feeling. But here's the catch. Saying no doesn't always feel like an easy decision. Sometimes, it feels like you're letting people down, or like you're somehow not being a good friend, parent, or partner. But that's where you have to get honest with yourself. Why are you saying yes to everyone else at the cost of your own peace of mind? Is it worth it? Is it worth losing your inner peace just to maintain someone else's idea of what your life should look like? The reality is that we can't keep giving to others if we're running on empty. You know this already, right? You can't pour from an empty cup. And if you're constantly prioritizing others over your own well-being, eventually you'll run out of energy and you'll start resenting the people you're trying to please. It's a vicious cycle, and it won't stop until you put a stop to it. So, what happens when you stop trying to please everyone? Well, the first thing you'll notice is that you begin to feel lighter. The weight of other people's expectations won't be hanging over you anymore. You'll begin to feel more free, more in control of your life, and more connected to what you truly want. But it's not just about freedom. It's also about clarity. When you stop saying yes to everything, you give yourself the space to focus on the things that matter most to you. You start to understand what you truly want out of life, and you begin to pursue it with a newfound intensity. And that, my friend, is a gift you give yourself. But here's the thing about boundaries. They're not just about saying no. They're also about saying yes. Saying yes to yourself. Saying yes to your happiness. Saying yes to the things that bring you joy and fulfillment. When you stop trying to please everyone else, you open up the possibility to say yes to the things that are aligned with your values, your passions, your purpose. Let me break it down for you. Say yes to your health, because your well-being is not negotiable. When you stop running yourself ragged trying to meet other people's expectations, you have the time and energy to focus on your health, whether that's eating well, exercising, or simply getting enough rest. Saying yes to your health means saying yes to living a long, vibrant life. Say yes to your passions. because you deserve to pursue what lights you up. I spent so many years putting other people's dreams ahead of my own that I forgot about the things I truly love to do. When I finally started saying yes to my own passions, everything changed. I felt more fulfilled, more energized, and more connected to the person I really wanted to be. Say yes to your relationships, but only the ones that nourish you. Let me tell you something. Not all relationships are meant to last forever, and that's okay. But the relationships that truly matter, the ones that uplift, inspire, and support you, those are the ones you should prioritize. Saying yes to the right people means you're giving yourself the gift of authentic connection. Say yes to your personal growth, because you're never too old to evolve. Don't let age limit you. Don't let it hold you back from becoming the best version of yourself. I'm 60, and I can honestly say that I've never felt more alive, more open to new opportunities, and more willing to learn and grow. Life doesn't stop just because the number on your birthday cake gets bigger. It's never too late to choose yourself. And finally, here's the most important thing I've learned after 60 years of trying to please everyone. You will never regret choosing yourself. The people who love you, the people who truly care about you, will support you. And the people who don't, well, you don't need them in your life anyway. So, my friend, I want to leave you with this thought. You've spent enough time living for others. It's time to start living for yourself. Stop trying to please everyone and start pleasing yourself. Start honoring your own needs, desires, and boundaries. Start saying yes to the life you deserve. Because at the end of the day, the only person you need to answer to is you. You don't need permission to be happy. You don't need anyone's approval to be yourself. And most importantly, you don't need to sacrifice your own happiness just to fit into someone else's version of what your life should be. The only approval you need is your own. So, take a deep breath, set those boundaries, say no when you need to, and start living the life you've always deserved.